Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about reverse Dete, and you can make some kind of unconventional luggies with just kind of the mastery of this pretty simple bowl. Most of us are introduced to it within the first year of playing tabla, and it's a really good bowl. You can actually really loosen your hand up, but I'll talk more about that in just a moment. Now, if you're looking to invest in your tabla learning, if you've been on and off for years and years, but this is the year finally that you want to, go further, move past any of your plateaus, then click the link in the description and join us in the Skool community. And I will say again, this really isn't for people looking for more free content. It's really looking for those that want to better themselves and just want to invest in their own playing. Now, before I get to even talking about the reverse Dete, I had a lot of performances and rehearsals this past week. I'm a little bit out of practice. And what I realized is that these past few weeks, I've been talking about, tabla is like an athletic thing. You really push yourself, you really kind of, push your hand to the limit, get better, practice hard, all these things. And the only issue with all of that I found and tested is that it's all from the mentality of a student trying to get somewhere. You haven't yet arrived where you are, but you're in process of arriving to mastery. But the issue with that is when you go on stage, people don't really get the fact that you've really pushed your hand a lot, that it's an athletic event. What they want to see is a master. If they see a student up there, you can play the best thing ever, but if your body language is of that, of a student, it just won't come across as well as it could. So what really needs to go in every practice is some sort of, and this may sound strange, but you really have to act as if you're a master while playing. You have to kind of believe it on some level. I'm not saying that you have to completely believe it, but on some level you have to believe it. And you have to also practice with ease and grace. And that's really, important to any performance. What I said is kind of great, the athletic way, for like an off season of tabla. Let's say you do that maybe for 3 months really hard. Then before you have performances, you kind of have to bring in that feeling that you are a master again before you go on stage. So this is something, I learned. I was playing, all my stuff, all the usual stuff. I practiced a lot. It was coming out well, but it was just missing that grace, that feeling that, you just own the stage. It was kind of like a student trying to prove himself. So anyways, after all that, let's get to now the reverse Dete. So reverse Dete, you can do a lot with it. It's a great way to loosen up your hand, like I was saying. Let's take a look at the first luggi that we're going to cover today. This is kind of, today is kind of unconventional luggis. You can use them in fusion, and they just have various applications. They may not work great in deep classical settings, but, just be playful with them and see where you can use them. So let's take a look at the first one. Dete dete nati dete 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 nati kene. So it's pretty simple. It goes like this. So this is kind of similar to what I would hear a drum set would play. Let's say a drum set would go something like. Let's say that. So this would kind of be the double speed of that. So I'll play it slow and then I'll do that again. So Dete dete nati dete 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 nati kene dete dete nati. That's kind of how it goes. So let me now demonstrate how I kind of imagine it. So let's say you're kind of playing with a drum or something. So the double speed would be, with this luggi would come in well. So course, once you practice the reverse dete, you can bring it to dene dene. You can almost do the same thing with just dene dene. It can go like. That's kind of the feel, you hear that kind of, I don't know exactly what it would be called in the drumming world, but just a simple, whatever that is, this is kind of all based on things you could do with that. That's a very common, beat you'll find. So this is one of my favorites. I would like to say I came up with it, on my own, but it's just really, what else would the double speed be besides that? You can't really, dene wouldn't really fit into, a drum kind of beat. Dere dere would be a bit too subtle. So what's left is like a hardcore reverse dete. Let's now take a look at some other things you could play in a kind of more fusion set. So let's take a look. Dhati ghere tere kite, nati kere tere kite, dhati ghere tere kite, nati kere tere kite. So this is kind of reverse dete, but it's tere kite instead. You'll see in just a moment. So you can do in all of this, by the way, do the kali bhari, however you think it would sound the best. Don't stick to, any convention. So. Dhati ghere tere kite, nati ke. So a bit faster. Whoops, hit the mic. 1 second. I'm messing up. So since that's so short, you play that for 1 or 2 lines. You wouldn't play that too long. It's actually going to progress into something. So this is ghere tere kite. So ghere tere kite. So it's still kind of starting with the index. So it's almost kind of like a reverse dete still. So let's take a look at how you can progress this a little bit. Dhati ghene na ghere tere kite. This is now including the dhati ghene. And of course, that leaves room for some bio work as well. So that goes like this. So I keep hitting the mic. Let me just move the tabla back a little bit. So on the ghere tere kite, I really think you should accent, while I was playing this, it just came to me, accent this first te. So right there. So that first te, it comes in really strong. You don't want it like a wimpy, first sound of the tere kite. It doesn't have the same effect that it would. So there's now one step further. Now you could take this, which will now bring in the bull thick. So this is all kind of like a progression. Now, you may not exactly follow this pattern, but just have fun with it. Come up with your own, variations. The point of this video is all the different things, you could do with reverse dete. So let's take a look at the final progression of this. Dhati ghene, dhati ghene, dhati ghene, dhati ghene, dhati ghene. Should actually be 2 dhati ghene. So dhati ghene na ghere tere kite, tik ghere tere kite, tik ghere tere kite. So I'll make sure to change that to just 2 dhati ghenes. But one more time. Dhati ghene na ghere tere kite, tik ghere tere kite, tik ghere tere kite. So like this. Let me do it just a little bit slower if it's confusing to anyone. So a bit faster. Let's try for a little bit faster. Let's see if I can do it. So it turns out I could do it. So these are some, interesting luggies you can play. They're not the usual kind of luggies, you hear. But, it's always good to have a lot of different things in your arsenal. The first one I covered, the Dete, that one I actually do practice pretty regularly because sometimes it's fun. You're in a classical environment and then you throw in something that sounds like a drum beat and you just watch all the people that are strictly classical, like their expression, it's kind of interesting. And I also hope that if there's anyone younger, I guess, in the audience, they'll, appreciate it. Because in a lot of these classical concerts around here that you go to, there's no one, near my age or anything. So I really do hope to see more of the youth, at these concerts. So I'll throw in stuff like this. Even if it makes people upset, I still find it fun. And those are some luggies that you can play with reverse Dete. Thank you.